Spotlight video once more because you are our main man for the night. I'm unmuting you as well. Should get the notification. Did you get it? There we go.
Okay, there we go. I'm back unmuted. I hope you had some good conversations, bouncing around from room to room. I certainly did. Met some great folks. Let's see if we can do this. Dinner was provided by Pink's tonight, and I'd like to talk to Craig Cooper. I was in a room with Craig, and they're getting a chance to talk to him about Pink. So hopefully, are we technically able to do that? If we are, we will. If we're not, then we will move on. So somebody want to tell me, are we technically able to do that right now?
Craig is here, and I shall add his Spotlight video right now. So here we go.
Hello. There he is. How you doing? And it's nice to meet you. I look forward to meeting you in person.
Yeah, and you, sir.
So everybody's telling me how much they enjoyed dinner from Pink's tonight. My food didn't come in time yet, so I'm eating as soon as we're done. I got the jerk chicken. So as soon as that comes out, I'm jerk chicken fettuccine. So hurry up and talk so I can go eat.
Yes, sir. We will do that.
So tell me about Pink's. Tell me the history of Pink's for people who are not familiar with what it is that you do.
Okay, the history of Pink's. Okay, imagine if you would a sweet potato pie.
Okay.
Stuff it in a waffle.
Okay.
Yes. Top that with a single scoop of vanilla ice cream. Drizzle that with a salted bourbon caramel sauce.
Okay.
Yes, that is how it started. 11 years ago.
That's also how we get the COVID 15 pounds.
Comfort food in this situation.
So you started just making this dessert, and from there you expanded into catering.
Yes, sir. Well, from that dessert, we actually won a contest in San Francisco. The San Francisco Street Food Festival had a vote for your vendor contest. We entered that particular item against all of the food trucks and off the grid and a lot of home cooks. We won the contest outright. And then our first time ever selling to the public, we sold 2,000 of those things.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. Now, somebody told me that you have a lobster mac and cheese that's off the hook. Is that accurate?
Truth. Yes, sir.
Okay, I want that. How do I get that?
Well, I'll talk to my wife about putting that on the menu for next week.
Okay. All right. So how does it work? You guys deliver or come by and pick up, or both?
Both. So we're located here in San Leandro, 1933 Davis Street at the gate. Take the ramp upstairs and you can't miss the black trucks. We also deliver to you. So on Wednesdays and Fridays, we make our deliveries. And beginning of the middle of next month, we're going to be opening our online store where you'll be able to cook at home using all the Pink's recipes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh. How long have you been in business now?
9 years. 7-Eleven. 9 years.
Well, I'm glad we're able to give you some love here over the web for people who, after 9 years, didn't know about Pink's. I got to try that dessert. And I got to try the lobster mac and cheese.
Yes, please.
Well, thank you for everything that you did for Ed and for all of us tonight. It's very much appreciated.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. I'll be by to see you soon.
All right.
And with that, let's see what else. I got a whole agenda. They gave me a whole agenda here. This is not the seat of my pants, but it sort of is. It is my pleasure to introduce now, if we are ready and set, the mayor of the city of San Leandro, Pauline Cutter.
Hello, I am here. I have one question for Pink's real quick. So how do you manage your leftovers? Because at our house, we can't seem to do that. And so I'm just wondering, like, can you cook with something in mind that then you can use the next day to kind of, put in the stew or something like that? Or do you just have to try to be as precise as possible? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I mute him.
Okay, there we go. The excellent question. Well, actually, cooking we try to be as precise as possible, but sometimes we're not. And actually, it was from situations like that, we became creative, and the short rib taco was born.
Okay.
Mustard glazed short rib, put in a tortilla, delicious. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Great things show up.
That sounds great. A short rib taco. Okay, I'll be there. I'll be there.
Okay.
You sold me.
I know.
You had me at hello.
There you go. We were
Good
just,
evening, Your Honors. Always good and a pleasure to talk to you. So,
Thank you
I'm
very much.
going to do a brief interview with you.
Okay.
And I want to ask you to start by telling people why you are supporting Ed.
Okay. So you're going to tell him, or you want me to tell him?
I'd like you to tell.
Okay, I can do that. You know, gosh, I first met Ed, I don't know, probably, I don't know when I first met
Was
Ed.
it the chamber
prob-
that you had a speech there at the chamber, Mayor? And then we talked about transforming San Leandro, and then you used that line.
Oh, that's right. Yes. And he came up with this word called two words, opportunity zones. This is an opportunity, and I never thought of it that way. It was always, this is my challenge and stuff. And so he turned it into something positive. And so he said, and here are some opportunity places. And he named 3 things that we were doing well and 3 opportunities that we had in store for us. And that was something I did. I stole it right away from him and picked it up and started making it my own. And then, you know, history was made. The other thing about Ed, I think that people should know is if you've ever met him, you'll know he's not afraid to ask questions, and more questions and more questions and more questions. And he reminds me of me a little bit in that respect, because some questions really have a point to them, and some are just asked because you know that pretty soon they're going to come around and you're going to use that information in some way or shape or form to benefit our city. And so I always really try to make sure I listen to Ed when he's talking. Sometimes I do give him that little teacher look, you know, this kind of like that, where it gets it across the dais. But most times it's just really very great to hear somebody who's really thinking about the city and the possibilities where we can go. Not satisfied to keep us where we're at, but really looking at all things. And I'm so struck by his family. I met his girls a long time ago. And in fact, I still have things in my office. I have one little dish for the next time they come and visit me, that they get to come in and pick things from this dish. And it was because of them. But you know, just respectful, really nice kids, and really down to earth. And you can just tell when you have 2 parents that are so loving and so really caring, that's what happens to your kids. You know, they just feel inclusive. They feel brave enough to ask questions and so forth. And so to me, I look at San Leandro as kind of a family. And I mean, it's not I'm not mayor because I want to be on Broadway, unlike Brian, but I'm teasing Brian, but
I was going to run for mayor, but I won't. Go ahead.
but now you can't. But really, I'm looking at it as something that I wanted it to make it a place where my family wanted to come back and live. And so I see those same things in Ed. I see him really trying to take stock of what we've got, make it better, and make it so a family would want to live here and really be able to thrive.
If there were one thing that you could pick as the most important thing that you and Ed worked on together over the course of the last 4 years, and I know that and it may not be a fair question because I know there are numerous things, but if you had to pick one thing, what would that one thing be?
Well, you know, I mean, I think some of it would be Bayfair, definitely. You know, Ed, that is in Ed's district for sure, Bayfair, Madison, Marquette. But by now, most people know that I grew up right on the other side of Bayfair, and that, you know, I was born in that house. I've made 3 moves in my whole life. So Bayfair has always been near and dear to my heart, and I never thought it really got the attention it deserved. And that was one of those opportunity zones that Ed was talking about. And so really his chance to make Bayfair more family inclusive, more inclusive to everybody. So it's not just a place, so it's a place people want to go, not that they kind of feel they have to go to get something in our city. So that was one thing. And then just really some traffic and traffic things, you know, slowing down traffic, trying to work on the schools and those. And then I guess there was one other thing that struck me that I should have written down because of my memory is failing me now. But just working on future things, like talking there. Sometimes you have your plate full when you're the mayor, when you're a council member. I mean, it's all you can do to just keep kind of even and trying to make sure things are going on the way they're supposed to be going. But Ed always has that little part of him that's looking for something better. And, you know, it used to drive me crazy sometimes when it's like, holy cow, don't you know we have enough? Yeah, we have enough, but if we do this with the thought of what we can do in the future and how we can make it better, that's Ed. You know,
Well,
he's always looking forward.
He's got what they call the vision thing.
I think so.
What they call the vision thing. He's always looking at. Anything you'd like to close with before we hear from Ed himself?
Just that, you know, I have to say that when you're on a council, you know, just certainly through these turbulent times that we've been in, and they have been at everyone's heart, with, you know, our shooting of Stephen Taylor and then the national news and all of that, we've really had to sit back and, you know, I've certainly had to change. I don't feel like I've really changed my heart, but I've changed a lot of the ways I express myself and really been able to ask a lot more in-depth questions that I've never really gotten the chance to do. My kids will certainly tell you that, you know, point out all the things that I've done wrong along the ways and so forth. But what you find out is you can't do it alone. It's not up to the mayor to do something or the council member to do something. You need to have 4 votes to do anything in our city. And so you really need to work with your colleagues, and you can't just spring things on them. You can't just say, you know, this is it because it's good. You have to bring people along, and you have to sell them on these things, and you have to make it be their ideas too. And so that's something that people sometimes don't realize, is that you can't always be the one with the idea. Even if it's your idea, it can't be your idea, because if you want it to happen, you need to make it somebody else's idea because you want them to come along with you. And Ed is getting to be excellent in that, because he's not after all the glory. He's after getting the job done. And I think that that's something that's so important in our council.
And something that definitely deserves another 4 years.
Yep, I do agree.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. Before I bring Ed, as what I mentioned, the way that I met Ed was he was everywhere that I went in San Leandro. I'm talking any event. If I was emceeing an event, if I was at the grocery store, if I dropped a penny and bent over to pick it up, Ed would bump into me. I don't know how he does it, but he is somehow omnipresent. He is everywhere in this town. And I thought, I gotta meet this guy who is this committed to this city and to the betterment of the city. So when he asked me to do this, I was flattered, first of all, and honored to do so, even with my COVID haircut. So with that, let's hear from the candidate himself, my good friend, Ed Hernandez.
Well, thank you very much, Brian, for the time here and the opportunity to speak to, I think, my friends and family. And thank you, Pauline, very much for the kind words. It has been a few years when I saw you out there doing your speech to be elected for mayor, and then heard, you know, discussing it further. There are a lot of opportunities in San Leandro, and there's more work to be done, especially through this recession, through this pandemic, through the various crises and the movement that we're in, based on the moments that we've just gone through. Well, there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm excited to be here. It's been very interesting, challenging, and sort of transformative now. Like you said, this is a place where I'm raising my family with Catherine, and thanks to Catherine for the support, and as well as Rachel and Sarah for your support when I'm not able to join you for dinners. I'm busy in my meetings till 3 a.m, Mayor, right? With our long city council meetings, like, oh, that's been the hardest thing, to really adapt and respond to the crisis that people are in, and how can we help them crisis? How can we be more of a solution? How can we hear them and help them where they need the help and go to them? We are going through some crisis. We are concerned. Kids, you know, my daughter's started school today and they can't be there. So how do we help people get through the crisis locally? We talk about federal and state, but we can't control that. How locally we create an inclusive, nurturing environment. A lot of it's through community and asking, okay, what can we do? I mean, fortunately, in the last 4 years, working with Pauline and the rest of the council, we were able to look at, you know, this is going to happen next 2 to 3 years of recession. We didn't know how or why or what, but I was really curious and to want to learn more about the financial health of the city. And so that financial health involved us spending money and at least $50,000 in the consultant to really study the city's health. And we saw that, yeah, we could have done some different things. This is where we're at. This is where it gets bleak, and we got to do something now. So fortunately for us, we have a good solid reserve to get us through the next 3 years. But there's a lot more that people need now to get through this recovery, supporting small businesses, helping people in San Leandro stay in their homes through rental assistance. And if there's concerns about being evicted, how do we help people? And we providing legal aid. So right now we're on point to at least deliver $500,000 of legal aid. But there is that need of food, housing, and health services. We talk about public safety, but we got to look at human safety and really making sure how we provide safety without guns, provide those supports, services that people in crisis that are not having that shared reality, that they might be afraid to call the police. Then who do you call if you can't call them? So we have to make sure there are other resources when people feel more confident about the people in the badge and gun, that they can call them. But if they don't, provide other opportunities for them to get the help. And I'm really bolstered by the opportunity that we've gone through so much, and we're so strong as a council, really trying to do more for our community. And really happy to see all your faces here supporting me through the Zoom and through Facebook Live. I was trying to play around with the idea how to support and fundraise in the pandemic. It hasn't really happened, but the idea sort of grew, starting with former council member Lee Thomas, like, hey, let's partner. He said he wanted to do something, and this idea came like, let's do something. Let's do a grab and go. And that was phenomenal. I really enjoyed that opportunity. And for that, kicked off this local business supporting small business mentality that together, I can use this platform and I have to fundraise, but I can also support people who may have to have pivot. Like Craig, he says he's pivoting. We had a conversation a few weeks ago. How do you pivot? And this is how he's pivoting. He used to do events, but what happens when you have no events? Well, you pivot. You have an online store, you do delivery, you hustle, you find a way. And for me, it's like my consultants, and I'm not sure if Rhonda's still here. She's one of my consultants. She said, you got to raise this much money. Like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm not even sure how I did it last time, but I did it, right? Hi, Rhonda. She's the one keeping me like, hey, you got to raise this much to do this, this, and that to get your message. We have to be efficient and effective. So, I mean, fortunately, I've got a lot of support, raised over 20 grand. Even, Catherine was supportive of me putting some money in there from our reserve. So I appreciate that further. But yeah, it's a fun time. It's a difficult time. It's an important time where experience matters. And I'm excited to be that guy. Never thought I'd be in politics, but Barbara Lee's chief of staff told me, when they saw her in DC and talked, well, you're not supposed to want to be in politics. You just get in it because it's the right thing to do. You want to show your family that you care about the community. You want to be involved, make a difference, because you have a house, but your home is your entire community. We're talking in one of the breakout rooms about the Broadmoor community, being involved at a young age. And the kids, they benefit from the parents learning, because we're the students. The kids actually benefit from us. And then be involved more in the community. When we started here at our local school, it was not like, oh, we shouldn't get involved. You shouldn't get involved. Like, look, there's a need, let's meet it. We're privileged enough to have the experience and flexibility. I mean, I'm housed. I had a good meal. There's people out there suffering. So how do we help more people when they're suffering? A lot of it's together, and a lot of it's through city and government to really drive that need, that solution. So I'm still committed to not only helping us get through this recovery, seeing how we go from, transitioning some of the services that provide today through the police department, and really looking at how we provide that more through human services and that transition, and people feel more safe to reach out when they're in crisis. And there's also a lot of development. They need to go fixing those potholes and those roads, but housing, bring more housing, bring more jobs, supporting retail. And we talked about, and the mayor talked about Bayfair. There's a whole transformation going to go through there. And when that happens, it's going to be great. There's going to be some new houses, new retail opportunities, and really focusing on the environment. We've had all these fires. We can't go outside and breathe. You thought this was bad. Let's just layer on that we can't even go outside anymore. So we got to find a way to be more environmentally sensitive, be able to walk and ride your bike more, and really transition out of the auto and focus on how you can work more near home instead of driving hundreds of miles wherever you need to do. Because then that means you're more time away from family and friends, and you're really affecting the quality of life. So the idea now is to drive people to work where they near home. So we have the San Leandro Tech Campus. It's a great facility for people who want to work inside, have those opportunities, but creating those jobs and redeveloping the marina, good quality jobs, more housing, more public spaces, and even with the private ferry that I'm still hoping that it works through, that way people can mute the water back and forth. get out of the car, have an experience, go to the city, we can go back. It's all that good stuff. But I'm very blessed to be here, and I'm looking to get the support, which I already have here, I believe, to get another 4 years. And you know, there's going to be some asks that I just got over 2,000 of these door hangers. I might need a couple volunteers to help me pass those out. I was hoping, you know, I have Ron. They said, "Oh, I've ordered a couple thousand." Like, okay, in 10 weeks, let's deliver it. Like, so we have also our my big old lawn signs I just got. It's like, how big is it? Huge. So I got some of those out there. Hopefully, you got yours. If you have other friends, maybe you can let them know to get their lawn signs too. But those are my minutes. I think I'm getting yanked. Brian,
Well,
thank you
actually,
very much.
before
Yeah.
you go, I have one question that I want to ask you, and that
Yes,
is,
sir.
out of your past 4 years, if you had to pick one accomplishment that you're the most proud of, what are you the most proud of that you've been able to accomplish in your first 4 years? Because you've done so much.
Yeah, no, I think one of the first things we did, and I'm not going to take credit for it, and I don't think I need to. I think it was just a collective decision. We forget, it's been 4 years and we elected Trump then, and I didn't vote for him, but there was a concern about a sanctuary city. And so the argument was this threat, they're going to take federal funds and we'll be able to do less. But if you don't people feel safe in our community, we can't really support them, and then people are not really reaching out for help. So the sanctuary city was something that very early on the policy that I was able to step into, but it was quite important to make people feel safe. I also want to speak to what Lee Thomas drove when he was in the council, you know, reducing the amount of kids using tobacco. I think he was had that vision, that foresight to drive that as well. So we're looking at public safety, the health of individuals, to make sure they can thrive in your community. Anything that way, I'm very proud of. And I think those two things I just called out, plus the financial health of the community and bringing more housing, more affordable housing. I think we invested at least $4 million, Pauline, in the bridge housing and the Eden housing. I think that's quite important as well. You know, taking care of our homeless community, helping them with services. There's a few things there. It just goes on, but everything gets blended because you have meetings after meetings and discussions that you're sort of just moving, and it's exciting. And sometimes you step back and like, what did I accomplish? Well, I think we try to shape San Leandro's future for the future, making it better today. We won't see everything we touch, just like a tree you plant, the seeds, you know, eventually grow over time. We won't get that shade, but our kids will. And I think that's what I enjoy most about doing this work. It benefits our families and the children that are going to be the future here of our community and beyond.
You know what? I think we're a kinder community.
Yes. I should have put on my button. A city where kindness matters, right, Mayor?
There you go.
Well, yeah. So thank you, Brian, for that question.
Absolutely. And you had somebody you were going to introduce, a special guest.
Yeah. Former Councilmember Lee Thomas, the owner of Grill Lee Q. He's the grill master, good friend of mine, good supporter. On day one, 4 years ago, he is the council member who endorsed me. He took a bet. He said, yes, I can endorse you. I think I can believe in you. Mayor Pauline, I know you also supported me. I put Lee on the mailers. He said, hey, this is the guy. He's like, Ed's, I mean, I had to corner him at the Cherry Festival. I remember, it's like, hey, are you going to endorse me or what, buddy? I need to know. My other consultant said, I got to get Lee Thomas. Unfortunately, we had the same consultant then. So she was pressuring him then. So you guys are like, hey, you want to get reelected? You got to get endorsed Ed. Overall, I appreciate it, Lee, for stepping up and helping with my first fundraiser and coming to the table here today.
Thank you. Thanks, Ed. Hey, what a great night to be able to at least virtually be online with so many people that support you. For those of you who are on this line, let me tell you one thing. I knew Ed before Councilmember Ed Hernandez, and I've got to know Ed then, and I've gotten to know Ed now. And what's the difference? Well, one of the things is Ed's love, passion, and care for the community, it hasn't changed. It didn't change when he was Ed Hernandez. It hasn't changed when he's Councilmember Ed Hernandez. But what I can tell you firsthand, from not just sitting with him for 4 years, but even watching him after me being out of office, is Ed has grown tremendously in the role of a council member. In the role of a council member in the city of San Leandro that's going to be able to propel this city. San Leandro's not at a crossroad right now. San Leandro is at the beginning of the road. San Leandro is at the beginning of the road that's going to be needed to drive us out of everything that this pandemic is going to lead us. And in order to do that, in order to be able to drive this city and be able to put this city in the right direction and to be able to navigate through everything that's going to come our way, This is why I'm supporting Ed Hernandez. This is why I'm going to tell you guys tonight, after this Zoom meeting, go out, hit up on social media, talk about how great this was, because we're going to need all the support we can. You might see signs out there right now that says proven leadership from someone that's running for office. But you know what? Ed doesn't have to put a sign out that says proven leadership, because he's displayed it. He's displayed it in everything that he has done on the dais. And so campaigns are expensive. I know firsthand. San Leandro has a very curious election model here where you represent a district, but you run citywide. And in order to run citywide, you got to be able to get those door hangers on people's doors. You got to be able to get those signs out. You got to be able to have literature so people know who the candidate is. It's an expensive run. It's expensive. It's hard on you. It's hard on your family. So I'm here tonight, not just to give my support to Ed and speak firsthand that I've seen this guy grow into the council member who he is, and he's only going to get better in the next 4 years. And he's going to lead us in the direction that I know we need to go. Once again, not at the crossroads, but to drive us forward. So leave here tonight. Think about how you can support this guy with a financial contribution. Every little bit helps. And not only think about how you're going to support him with a financial contribution, reach out to your friends on your friends list and ask, even if it's $10, $20, $25, ask how you can support someone who you believe in. We're on this Zoom call tonight because we believe in this guy. I believe in this guy. Let's make sure this guy gets elected and not have to worry about getting his material out. So on that note, I'm privileged to be here. I'm privileged to support Ed Hernandez. I'm privileged to be on this Zoom call with all of you guys. And I'm really looking forward to being able to celebrate come November.
All right, thank you. So that's it. This is the time when you open up your wallets and you open up your hearts and you kick some money in. So that Ed gets elected for another 4 years. We've got about 15 or 20 minutes left available for some questions. If you've got questions for Ed or if you've got questions for the mayor, I believe that those questions are going to be sent to me, and then I'll read them out loud, whatever they are. I see a bunch of dollar signs that just came to me. That's good. That means somebody's giving money. People are giving some money. If you want to know exactly how it is, they get their signs.
Their signs, they can drop it in their message right now. They can put their address, and then we'll capture those comments and messages as well. So, and you can also message us on edhernandezforcitycouncil.com or just drop us a note here or through email.
Okay.
And then
Okay,
if you want to, just drop the address in the chat. If you have one, if you don't have one, we can do that. If not, we'll put it on the Facebook page as well.
Okay, someone was asking what's up with the someone wanted to know, and I'll just make this an open question to the mayor and to Ed. Someone's asking what's up with the roads. Why are they in such bad condition where I am? He didn't say where he is or she is.
I can't take part of that. Yes, we've had the worst, sort of one of the not as great pavement condition index or PCIs, but we put tons and tons of asphalt out there, over $23 million in capital improvements, and there's more work to be done. That's why it's sort of speaking to street and pothole repair. You know, that's something that's been concerned for the last 4 years and longer. So it's quite important to still not pull back on that, but continue that work as I see it, to maintain their infrastructure, create those jobs, and make those roads more accessible for everyone. And not only just for cars, but also for bicyclists and people walking. So there's a lot of infrastructure opportunity. We've done a lot of work. We put over $23 million in road repairs and improvement, and there's more work to be done. It's a challenging time between having to choose between local recovery, supporting small businesses and helping people stay in their homes, and also making an infrastructure improvement so people can deliver food. You know, that's sort of the basics, right? Deliver food or go to where you need to work and get around. But I think the focus is also bringing more revenue, just like the transfer tax that we're proposing on the ballots this November. That's going to bring another $4 million that, you know, I started working with the mayor over 3 years ago to bring that forth. And that $4 million will help us in many different ways, help meet the needs of the community. I don't know if Pauline, did you want to add to anything else there?
I was just trying to find out where I can send money, but I'm...
Oh, there's a chat there. So edhernandezforcitycouncil.com /donate.
Okay, I'll figure that one out. Anyway, yeah, I wanted to say that one of the easiest cuts to make in a budget is roads and repairs, because it's not something people notice right away. It's not like cutting hours for your library or so forth. And so for the past probably 20 years, we've only been adding $1 million per year for roads and repairs. And so when I got on the council about 12 years ago, 10 years ago, we started looking at that, plus the community started demanding that we do better. San Leandro was at the bottom of the PCI list. And so now we spent over $30 million in the last 4 or 5 years on our roads. And so we're bringing it up. We're still not at the top. We're not even at the middle. But we're not at the bottom anymore. And so that's really the good news. But we've really made a conscious effort to get our roads up. We've also spent a lot of money on a new, there's a technical word for it, but one of the machines is a grinder and the other machine is a paver. And so now we can do a lot more in-house repairs of the smaller jobs ourselves. So we're trying to really make sure that we're looking for the future and to keep that going. And that's one of the reasons we've actually put the transfer tax on the ballot, is because we want to make sure that we can maintain all of the services that we have and not have to cut things like roads and repairs.
Here's a question from Sarah, who says, Brian, please ask Ed why he suggested the police union have a seat at the table of the Community Advisory Budget Task Force.
Sure, great question. I met with the police department and talked with them about their concerns about how they were getting defunded at least $2 million. They didn't really understand why. Their concern was that we've been doing a lot of good work for the community. Yes, there's been tragedies in the last year, 3 deaths with officer-involved shootings, but they really advocated, they wanted a seat at the table. And recently been watching some discussions or difficult conversations on Apple Plus, and talked about, if you think somebody's part of the problem, you need to have them there to be part of the solution. I mean, even when you do counseling, you try to work out those situations when maybe you have a partner you don't agree with, and how are you going to solve that problem with that partner? And they felt that it was important to be at the table, not just present. So if we're going to talk about community budgeting, our police department, they felt really strongly that they're part of this community. They're here every day and night serving the community. And some of them do live in their community. So it was difficult, and it took me a second to think about it. Like, I didn't expect that when I was meeting with them for a potential endorsement. And really having that conversation. And so it took me a second to think about it, but it made sense to me. And the council supported that idea, that if you have issues or concerns with one set of employees that are supposed to drive public safety, if you really want to get to it, you got to understand why this is happening and how can you change it, change the culture, the values, and also maybe the budgeting. So right now the council decided to remove about $2 million of those monies that involved overtime, a couple positions, some vehicles, and possibly move that more into human services or other programs that might involve people without guns, is that we're calling. That's how part of it. So I think it's important, and the council ultimately chooses to maybe appoint 4 people to the 28-member group, which is a community budget task force that the mayor and council brought forth. It's a great question, but it's important, I think, in my opinion, that we have people, we have the table and try to work with it to move forward into a better way, because they also agree they're doing too much. They're the only ones answering the phone for every emergency, and they feel they're doing too much. So what can they take off their plate and move it to somebody else who can do it better and possibly safer? That's how I would respond to that question. It was a tough one. That's where my head was at with that.
Here's one from our pal Charlene Grant, who wants to know what your hopes and plans are for the future.
Well, to win the lottery, I'm not sure specifically. I don't know.
Mine is I want one of the short rib tacos. That's what my plan for the future is.
I know. No, I think to continue the work here in San Leandro for the next 4 years as a council member. I mean, I've loved it. I never thought I'd be doing it. I wouldn't be doing it without the support of family and friends, and then folks like y'all who contributed over $40,000 to my campaign last time. But really, there's a lot of work to do in this COVID recovery. People are suffering, and what we can do, what can we help them with? And people want to feel safer, want to help be part of that solution. Some people say, leave it better than I found it, the campground. And that's my mentality. How do we do that together? And I want to make sure I hear your voices and what you think we're doing well, and what can we do better, and what should we stop doing? Some people say, like, yeah, this is what you're doing well, and what should we stop doing? And we talk about that in public safety. They're doing all these different things, and we should really look at how we stop that. So I think it's quite important to understand what we're going to do together. And a lot of it is bring more housing, fix our roads, provide support to small businesses who are suffering and helping them pivot and helping people stay in their homes. There's a lot there. And I'm hoping that I can be part of that solution for the next 4 years.
Now, here's you mentioned small business. This question regards small business. Ed, what do you think is the best way to put pressure on businesses to clean up their parking lots like Palma Plaza, AutoZone, and Lucky's, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, early on we had this code compliance, and I thought it was rather low. And then just moving forward to my daughters are making little signs. We all agree, re-elect Ed. Oh, my daughter Sarah made it. Yeah, it's this. I'm going to take this one and put this in front of Pauline's house now, right here. This is a sign that she'd like to put on her yard sign. Rachel's whiteboard. So the question was, the streets and cleaning. So part of it is maybe looking at maybe possibly more penalties, because right now it's rather low. And that's one way to do it. You can penalize people or you can incentivize them. I feel like we can incentivize them more. I think the mayor has put together this Kindness San Leandro website and just bringing more volunteers to help clean up some parts of it, but that's private property. If people can maintain their own front yard, then we're gonna probably find ways to penalize them more and enforce it. Because right now it's about 100, 300, or 1,000. It doesn't really affect it. So we might have to move that up to 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, really affect how they're doing business. If they're not maintaining it, and go out there. I've gone out there, I've cleaned it up myself and talked to staff. You can't really clean other people's private property. You can do like some of the peripherals, and I've done that in the past. But I think we just continue talking about that. And I've already talked to staff about reevaluating how we have these fees that are for the bad actors that are not cleaning up their property, maintaining the quality of care I would expect if I owned that property, and then continuing that pressure. Because some people are absentee, they might not care. So if they don't care, we might have to force them to care. And I think that's one of the approaches I would take with this.
I have to apologize to Shirley, I misread her question. It was not just what are your plans for the future, but what are your plans for the future of the city?
Yes, I think the city's going to be more inclusive. We're going to build more housing, have more retail opportunities, create more places where people want to gather when they can gather. And I think, yeah, I mean, people where they feel safe. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Right now, we have the COVID environment. You don't really feel safe to talk to your friends. Secondly, sometimes you're concerned about crime going up, but people are more desperate needs. I mean, right around the corner, I think there was a neighbor break-in, and so people are being more less cautious and just they're hurting more, and they might be resorting to more violence or more crime activity. So being able to find, intervene, support, let's say youth programs, and helping them find ways and opportunities forward. And the food access is quite important, and continuing to provide job opportunities. That's really key and critical. And focusing overall on health and safety. I mean, we just right now this last week, a concern that came up that people are not wearing masks, and then brought it up and copied the mayor, like, let's bring more masks, just give away more masks. If you're at a facility, you're getting tested, here, take a mask. Yeah, I was noticing that people lose their masks. You might need more than one mask. Let's give you some more masks. I mean, they might be there, they might not be there, but you might need it, or give it to somebody who doesn't have one. Who knows why people aren't wearing masks? But that's one of the priorities right now that, right now city management is going to be having a pulling out and getting those masks out to the community. And so that's the goal right now, to help them feel more safe. So overall, I think there's a lot of work, stretching where we're at with the finances, providing the revenue to fix those roads and helping people where they're hurting, because we may not be hurting as much right now, but we want to make sure we're there to help you when you do need the help.
This is a question from Amy. Ed, why did you feel it was important not to accept POA's contributions to your campaign?
Yeah, it's a great question. And also the endorsement now. I think that part of it is so politics, you deal not in reality and perception. And so the reality is that I have my own values and beliefs, but the perception is that I'm going to be biased. So let's just remove that out of the equation and just focus on making sure there's no concerns about how I am acting on behalf of the constituents or the residents of our community. So I think that was the most important reason why. Let's just take that off the table. It's not needed. They provided some money after the election the first time, but it's not necessary. That's why it's important to get that local support and people in the community to give where they can. So that way I keep the messaging out and I get reelected, because experience matters. In this last 4 years, the last 6 months, the last 3 months have been intense, and I want to continue to work for our community.
This next question is a question from me, moving back to the subject of masks. And that is, we know that masks stop the spread of COVID. And there have been some cities in some counties in the area, Arenda being one of the cities close by, where they're really punitive financially if you were caught not wearing your mask out in public. Do you think that that's a route that San Leandro should go down? In other words, if there are people walking around without masks, do you think they should be fined?
Well, I think we're asking more of our police already, and I think they're researched in. I think we have to sort of self-police ourselves where we can. And if you see somebody that's not carrying the values you expect, then you just don't associate or separate yourself. I can control me. I can separate myself and wear a mask. If those persons are choosing not to wear a mask, I can't be asking my police to do more. I've already asked them to go after animal safety and other things. If we keep layering it on, they can't really focus on what they're doing well. So the focus is like, if we can help police ourselves where we can, or just walk away from the environment, it's most important. I know there's environments where you don't have a choice, but it's rather you have to protect yourselves. And then really to ask police to do one more thing, I'm concerned. I mean, we might look at fining for people like businesses that are acting in ways that are putting our residents or community at risk. That might be a reality that the city can look into, but I haven't discussed that further with my colleagues. But to put more on the police, I think that's what I'm concerned about, asking them to do more. We're already asking them to go after fireworks, and that was a crazy month and a half or so.
Yeah.
That's why I'm concerned about. Now I'm more sensitive to what are we asking police to do? What are they supposed to enforce? And what if I have the bad incident? What if somebody doesn't trust police and they, it goes sideways? And I don't want to put more, more tragedies. It's unfortunate we had 3 in the last year, especially with Stephen Taylor, and we're trying to learn and do better, and so that we don't have that happen again. And provide support. I mean, who knows why they're not wearing masks? Maybe they have mental health issues. Maybe they don't have a shared reality. It's better just to protect yourselves, get masks, and do whatever we can to provide those resources for people who will take this pandemic seriously.
There's a message from Roy who says that he likes your comment, reimagine public safety.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've heard different terminology about reimagining, reforming. We're going through this transition, and through this transition of how we provide public safety, it's important to do it safely and smartly and have a plan that we're going to go through. So that's why we have to bring groups together, and we're reaching out to other nonprofits to help us bring the expertise and looking at maybe a possibility of an oversight commission to really evaluate policies, and that might involve a charter amendment. So really looking at everything's on the table as we look to transform, reimagine public safety in our community, and maybe looking at reducing the overall general fund, because we have about 100% of the budget is out there, and it's $100 million plus, and 60% of that might go towards public safety, and that's a lot of money that goes towards public safety, and it's just going up because you have those pension liabilities that go there as well. So we want to focus how do we provide more human services, so we don't have to use the police as much to enforce policy, but people are able to have opportunity and not have to commit crime in some cases, and then have conflict.
Here's an anonymous question. What are you doing to continue to defund the police and create a new way for making sure our people are safe from police brutality? And I'm going to piggyback onto that. When you say the phrase defund the police means different things to different people. I had a friend of mine who called from Nevada outraged that it means there'll be no more police. No, that's not what that means at all. It means that my understanding of it is that it means that resources are shifted in ways that are much more effective in terms of reimagining public safety. Mm-hmm. So number one, when you say defund the police, what do you mean? And number two, going back to the question, what are you doing to continue to defund the police and create a new way for making sure that people are safe from police brutality?
Yeah, those are great questions. As of right now, we have the application for the budget task force to evaluate how we've reduced some of the funds to the San Leandro Police Department, approximately $2 million, and how we're going to deploy that elsewhere. So those applications can be found on the City of San Leandro website, and we can drop a link or share that with those interested later. About 28 people are going to be involved in that task force, providing recommendations of those $2 million and help us shape the next 2-year budget. Our priorities, where we're going to be putting that money. Do we have less officers in the street? Do we have other types of law enforcement professionals maybe without a gun? Do we put out oversight? Do we fund more programs after schools for libraries for our kids? Youth prevention programs. How do we do that maybe with the arts? How do we engage in more in events and other productions that maybe have support and value to youth? And so we have to look at that through the task force one way to help us, but there's more. opportunities, and really those conversations with the people who are there to help us stay safe, understanding where they're coming from and then what happened. And going to one local pastor and said, I went to the session, Pastor Crawford, down the street here at the Zion Temple Church, Zion Baptist Temple Church, sorry, having trouble remembering the names, but Zion down in Bancroft, he had a session, being black or wearing blue, and there a lot of concern was about the culture, and I think there's a deep issue, they're cultural, there's not sometimes trust, and you always have to have your partner's back, and so I think there's an element of safety to be able to say something when they see something is part of it, and really be able to evolve those conversations that if something's going wrong, they should say something and they should feel safe to do so. And if that's not the issue, if that's not happening, there needs to be a change. And I think that's why you're seeing the systemic racism throughout our country, because there isn't a lot of sort of self-policing of the police. If not, that's where we were looking at more oversight and transformation of how police provide services. And really, we don't really want to engage the police unless it's an emergency or there's domestic violence or something more critical in emergency. We have to be able to find ways to support the community before they're there, and finding ways to help our community members like Stephen Taylor, who was going through a moment in crisis and having issues. And yes, he had a bad, but in my opinion, I don't think he was really a serious threat. And we probably could have de-escalated that better. And it's unfortunate the way it went down, and we want to make sure what can we do differently and better next time. And I think it's sort of, I don't have all the answers. I'm open to listening to these conversations and having the dialogue and speaking through it. I think that's quite important to continue that dialogue.
This is a question for the mayor. And the question is, where do you think the police reallocation funding should go in the city to best change the city? Is she still there? Can she hear me?
She'll get there.
There, I'm trying to unmute myself.
Okay.
So where do I think it should go? One of the things that I think we're going to find is looking at different opportunities that we have to do this, but also different circumstances. That's why having somebody actually on the budget task force to explain some of the predicaments or things that we're asking of the police to do that people probably don't have any idea that the police are asked to do. So I think that one of the things they can do is, in this whole thing of mental health and so forth, we have a homeless outreach program right now that we have an excellent reputation, and it really does good work. But these are particular people who are really excellent at their job. You can't expect every person to have that high level of aptitude for that exact purpose. So what we need to do is figure out what that looks like. I would love to see, this is my dream, if you will, to see health stations in San Leandro, that we get rid of fire stations, and we do not have a fire station. We have certain stations where fire trucks come out of, but we have health stations, and health stations are manned by a fireman, an EMT, or a paramedic, also a social worker or some kind of a therapist working like that. And then if needed, the police would go out too. So you'd have 3 different agencies responding to this incident. And when a call comes in, whether it's a fire or any one of the other calls it's going to be. So most of the calls, we have 1% of our calls that are fire. So why not take this opportunity to reinvent this and to send out people who can really do the help? If the police is needed, then you've got them there. But really, you've got a paramedic and you've got a mental health worker that could help talk people down or help give, the kind of nurturing or whatever they're going to need to do for this patient, and then get them into whatever circumstances, whether it's an ambulance trip, whether it's making an appointment at their doctor for the next day or whatever. But to me, that's what we need in our city. We don't need confrontations all the time. What we need is somebody who understands. But don't tell me that I'm going to send a social worker into a store that's getting robbed,
Right.
And have that person be able to. You're not going to put her in danger, her in danger. So there's certain things that you need all 3 people, and it's very hard to find one person that can be all 3 roles. And so that's what I would love to see happen in San Leandro.
And with that, we are out of time. I just want to give Ed a chance to, is there anything you'd like to close with?
Yes, I really much appreciate everybody's time and energy joining us tonight. Hopefully you really enjoyed the meal. I do want to make sure you sign up and to volunteer if you can at Ed Hernandez for citycouncil.com. If you don't have a sign yet, continue sending the addresses. We'll collect those. I will need some volunteers to help me pass these out, a couple thousand of those. So if you have time, also sign up to volunteer my website. We'll be doing that in the next few weeks. We have about 10 weeks to really get out there, get the messaging. Please vote. Starting early October, you'll start seeing that. I think I also got the Bell Theater, possibly put my name up there in the marquee, re-elect Ed. So I'm hoping for that. So, you know, maybe some skywriting. I thought about one of the hills, put my name up to re-elect Ed. And so it'll be fun. But it's important that there's a lot of work to be done. I feel that I bring the experience to leadership and the opportunity and balance to move us forward through these crossroads, to moving us forward into this direction that we want to go in this moment, in this movement that makes a difference for our community and beyond. We got to lead by example. We are a city where kindness matters. We want to elevate that and continue that collectively together. And I can only do that with your support. I really enjoy this work. I'm excited to do it. I'm glad to have y'all in my community, in my corner, and I'm excited to continue the work. And it's just the beginning here for the re-election. I'm very confident, but I do need your support. And I really thank you very much for coming tonight and supporting the event. I may have something in September. My last run had my 40th fundraising fiesta. I might engage Brian again to help me out a little bit, have more of a conversation there. But who knows? It's been very creative these last few months trying to fundraise and support the community. I appreciate you coming along on this journey, either on these Zooms or these grab and goes or picking up some flowers or around the corner talking politics and shop and just expressing your thoughts, because it's very important that we all work together, collaborate, and try to find a way forward in this crisis. And make it through I think Winston Churchill said it best. If you're going through hell, keep going. And I think you need leaders like me and the mayor to get us through it. So please join me, join us, because I think we all here agree that I should get reelected. So thank you so much for your time and have a good rest of your night. I appreciate it.
Let me tell folks, if you want to contribute to the campaign to help Ed get elected, go to edhernandezforcitycouncil.com/donate.
Thank you
And
so much.
with that, Ed, I want to thank you for having me. Your Honor, it is always a pleasure. And I'm going to go have my dinner from Pink's. I want you to support Pink's as well. Thanks for having me in your home. And vote for Ed. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Brian.
Oh, it was my pleasure. That was fun.
Yeah, it's a good event, and thank you. The format
Hopefully,
worked.
I hope we raised you some money.
I
It
appreciate
sounds like
it.
we had a lot of people that were like we had a lot of people who were watching. It seems like based on the
Yeah.
questions and such.
Yeah, no, and I guess people were on the Facebook Live too.